Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, September 29th, the day after Yom Kippur. Hope everyone had a easy fast and a meaningful fast, and wherever you davened, at home, on the street, in shul, wherever it was. Please, everyone, again, stay safe. Things are starting to change again here in Israel and back in the States. And please, everyone, wear a mask and follow all the rules so that we can finally hopefully one day leave this situation. Now we're getting into like Yontif mode and different holidays, so schedule is going to be a little different. I probably won't make any videos next week, but today we'll make a video of Siach Sarfei Kodesh because we missed on Sunday again as usual, and on Thursday we'll probably make a video about stories about Sukkot and different things about Sukkot from Rebbes and different things like that. But today is Siach Sarfei Kodesh, Breslov Sefer, stories about Rebbe Nachman and the different chassidim and oral traditions and autobiographies and biographies and all these cool stuff. So we're just going to continue reading. I skipped over actually a few pages because some of them were just really just pieces about the backgrounds of certain Torahs in Likutei Moharan, and I didn't understand a lot of them, and without context in the Torahs, it's a little bit hard to give over. So we're just going to continue reading some of the stories. So, Siach Sarfei Kodesh, Chelik Beis, Siman Reish Tzadik Beis. As a continuation of the Sicha of the peace that is bought in Chayim Moharan, Siman Shin Lamed Ches, it's told over that that they were, what's it called? Shashibach Lefanov Rabbeinu as Malos Shamanat. That Rabbeinu was praising some Rab Nosson in front of someone, and he said this, and Rebbe Nachman said that in his eyes, in Rab Nosson's eyes, he's such a low person that even if you would tell him to go buy you a piece of cake, a piece of bagel, Shava Pruta, there's just like this little coin, a kapik of bagelach, he would go run and buy it for you, even if he didn't know you. And this guy who Rebbe Nachman was talking to went out to the street, and he met Rab Nosson, who was going in very fancy clothing, because he did go in wealthy looking clothing, Rab Nosson. And he went over to him and he said, "Hey man, I'm a little hungry, a little starving. What can I do?" And Rab Nosson said to him, "I'll go buy you something right now. Kama begelach. What's it called?" And this guy gave him a kapik, a certain type of coin to buy him begelach. And Rav Nosson ran, and he bought him begelach. And even though Rav Nosson had no idea who this guy was, but he was talking to Rabbeinu about it, and he wanted to see if Rabbeinu was correct, and he knew right away that this was Rav Nosson, because that's what Rabbeinu said was going to happen. Interesting. Amar, Rabbeinu says, that he said that what the world does at the end, I want them to do this at the beginning. What does that mean? That the people in the world, like when they get themselves into any type of situation, at the end, when they see that there's nothing else left, they just start praying, because they know that there's nothing else to do. But Rebbe Nachman is saying that they should already start doing this from the beginning of any situation. Start praying right away, and then everything will work out. It's true. It's always daven. Rabbeinu said to Rab Naftali, Rabbeinu said to Rab Naftali that he should say Torah every Shabbos by the third meal. And Rab Naftali asked Rebbe Nachman, "And who's going to listen to me?" And Rabbeinu says, "Kfar yeh mi sheyishma." There for sure is already somebody who's already listening. So what does that mean? V'amna kach nog Rabbi Naftali kol yemei chayav. And Rabbi Naftali was knowing this all the days of his life, to give Torah over by Shal Shudis. And Rabbi Yisrael Torvitzer sheho yoytzu ba bebeis Rabbi Naftali v'chein Rab Meir Chazan Shegidloi Rav Naftali, who also, this guy, Rav Meir Chazan, who raised Rav Naftali because Rav Naftali was an orphan, they said over that Rav Naftali was noig to close himself off in a room every Shabbos during the third meal, and when they looked inside through the keyhole, they saw how Rav Naftali was sitting and moving back and forth and saying Torah. So it seems that when Rabbeinu says to him, "Kfar yiyeh mishi yishma," that there will be somebody who will listen. He's talking about deeper in Yonim, that Rav Naftali looked like he was talking to himself and saying over Torah to himself, but really he was saying over Torah to angels or high people or hidden people or whatever, different high things that we don't know about. But that's something interesting that Rebbe Nachman told him to do. When Rabbeinu was in Torvitz, at the wedding of one of his Hasidim sons, at the wedding of one of his Hasidim's son. Why can't I talk today? Niksha Isha Chatzufa Achas al Rabbeinu. A chutzpah woman came over to Rebbe Nachman. She said to him, "Rebbe, ten kesef b'shvil har rakdonim. Give money for the dancers." And this was a very big chutzpah gedola from her side, and the Chassidim heard how Rabbeinu said about her nafka, yatzanit, that she's a yatzanit. I'm not sure what that means. That she goes out. Okay. He hoisa'oz mu'uberes. She was pregnant at the time, and afterwards she gave birth to a son who was a big sinner. And he was such a big sinner, ad kidei kach, that the people who lived in the city of Tarvitz, they called him Pinchas the Shegitz. And the Breslov Hasidim knew on him, al pi divrei Rabbeinu, that Rabbeinu said to her at the wedding that he's not a ben kosher, meaning that something, maybe a mamzer or something like that. I'm not sure. Pinchas hazeh hoya mitzik ma'od Rabbi Yitzchak Chasen Magid mitarvitza, and this Pinchas was very bothersome to Rabbi Yitzchak, who was the son-in-law of the Magid of Tarvitza, who was a big Breslov Chassid. And one time, Pinchas said some lashon hara about him, that he saw this guy Rabbi Yitzchak doing a very big avera. And when Pinchas told this to all the people in the city, they said, "Stupid, who's going to believe you?" He said, and Pinchas answered back to them, and he said, 1,000 people won't believe me, but even if one person believes me, then it's worth it, right? So after a little bit of time, they sent the shliach to Rabbi Yitzchak, and he sent the shliach to Rabbi Yitzchak that he wanted to make peace with him. And Rabbi Yitzchak said that our peace is when we're far away from each other. All right. He did not accept his apologies or whatever. These are all just very interesting little things. When there was a time when Rabbi Nachman traveled to the city of Brod, after his first wife died, on Erev Shavuos, like it's told over in Yimei or not. And I read the story somewhere else also. He would just walk into random apartments there, houses there, because he was just doing different Rebbe Nachman stuff. And he went into an apartment, and there was a woman sitting there with her daughter, who was also a widow. And the mother was giving over to the daughter different ideas of people to marry. They were discussing shidduchim, and the daughter did not agree to any of them. But when she saw Rebbe Nachman just walk into her house, she says, "Kazeh avrei chayisi roitze." This type of man, this person is who I want. And the shidduch was nigmar on the spot. They completed the shidduch, and Rebbe Nachman continued to go from room to room. And in one of the rooms sat the Balabayas, who was a very rich person, and Rebbe Nachman started speaking with him. that he wanted to be mishtadich with him, and this guy agreed. But he started fighting with Rebbe Nachman and arguing with him about the schum of the nadon, of the money that he's supposed to give, like the dowry, whatever. He Rabbeinu hayanir like ke usher, because this rich guy thought that Rabbeinu was also rich, and he made a condition with Rabbeinu that the chasna won't be in Brod and not in Breslov, rather in the kvar of Votshek, which is close to Breslov. Afterwards, the mechutin regretted this decision that the wedding will be in this little kfar, and he wanted that the wedding should be only in Brod, because the borders were closed. And it was hard for them to come to the chasana, but Rabbeinu was not masking him to change from what they spoke about, like it's written in the Michtavi Rabbeinu Michtav Beis, the letters of Rabbeinu Michtav Beis, which is also in the letters of Rebbe Nachman. They published the first 7 or 8 letters are from Rebbe Nachman, and he talks about there how they wanted to change the wedding, but he didn't let them change the location of the wedding. So that's just another interesting little piece of history. One time, Rebbe Nachman turned to Rebbe Nachman and he said, "This that the world is far away from you, that's not hard for me to swallow, to understand. But Rabbi Nassan says, but what did I do to be Zoichet to come close to you?" And Rabbeinu says, also this is not hard to understand. And afterwards, Rabbi Nassan says, Kisheteretzle Rabbeinu Shigam Zel Loy Kasher, that when Rabbi Nachman answered that this is also not hard, even though he didn't give him a real answer, but once Rabbeinu said that this is also not hard, so then Rabbi Nassan knew that there was a special reason why he was there, and it's not hard, and he wasn't confused about it at all anymore, right? Because basically he was saying to Rabbeinu, he was like, everybody in the world is running away from you. Nobody wants to be close to Breslov back then, and I am zeichet to come close. So what's the reason? And Rabbeinu says, don't worry, it's not so hard to understand. Okay. One time, Rabbeinu was going on the way, and the wagon driver was showing off in front of Rebbe Nachman about his great expertise in the different roads, right, that he knew about shortcuts and different things. They said that because the Derech HaMelech, which is another name for the main highway, it was the regular path that they should be going on. It was full of mud and all this stuff because there was a lot of rain and all the snow melt and everything. So he was such an expert that he was able to go around it and take a shortcut in a longer way. But because of his Roiv Mumcha, since he was such a expert in this, he came back to the main highway in the part where there wasn't any mud or snow or anything like that. And Rabbeinu said about this, fasting and doing sigufim, harming yourself in certain ways that the old tzaddikim used to do, is a regular old way to get close to Hashem. But tefillah hispoidendus hiderech u'maseh chadasha. Tefillah and hispoidendus is a new way to come close to Hashem. But however, everything comes back to the old path. That he's saying that the old way to go was through fasting and different sigufim, but Rabbeinu revealed new ways to go, a shortcut or a roundabout, a longer way to go. But at the end of the day, it still gets back to Hashem, so it's all good. When they told to Rebbe Nachman what the tzaddik of Berditchev said, Shebisnas Taf Kuf Ayin, that this year in Taf Kuf Ayin was going to be the Shnas Agula, and the Remez Ledavar, and the hint to this is Tikah B'Shofer Gadol, that it says in Shemon Esrei, Tikah B'Shofer Gadol, and Taf Kuf Ayin is that year, right? That, and when it means blowing the shofar, it means that the Moshiach is going to come. So Rabbeinu says Tirachim Gam Hishana, which means, what does it mean? It says Im Tikah Hishna Segula. If Taf Kuf Ayin is the year of Geula, and the Remez is written into Tikah B'Shofer, so also the year Taf Reish Mem Ches, it's also hints to it the Indian of Gula. K'moy shekasav atusachum tirachim tzion. Vayim b'chaim ran simin Taf Kuf Chav Zayin Shamar b'chol zman shoyim umegam eze zman keit lagalos b'vadei lo yav Moshiach az ki ein ben David ba ela b'hesach hadas. So Rabbeinu was trying to say over here that it's known over here that at the end that we just said from Chaim Ran that Rebbe Nachman was not into people predicting Mashiach. He said that whenever somebody starts to predict Mashiach, it's definitely not going to come then. So even though Rabbeinu held of the Berditchever very, very highly, but the Berditchever said that Mashiach is going to come in the year Tuf Kuf Ayin, because it's a remiss to an Shmona Esrei. So Rabbeinu said also there's a different remiss to a different year also for Mashiach. So you can't prove anything like that. Okay. Maybe this will be the last one today, or two more. Okay. Rabbi Lev Mishtrestenitz, who was the son-in-law of Rabbi Yudel, died on a boat when he was going to Eretz Yisrael. And when the sailors of the ship got close to a certain city, B'derech Nisyasam, they put him on a board, and they put him down into the water, and they just left him there on the water. And they went. And then all of a sudden, the Toish Veher, the people who lived in the city that they got close to with the boat, where they left the body, they saw on this board floating a body of a man, and on top of his body was an Amud Eish, a pillar of fire. And they understood that this was a very, very holy person. And they already were looking for this type of thing, that there should be a man in the water with fire on him. Because one time there was a tzaddik v'kadosh who lived with them, and he commanded them before he died that nobody should be buried next to him except a tzaddik when they see upon him a pillar of fire. And now that they saw the pillar of fire, they understood that this was the guy who was supposed to be buried next to this guy, whoever this holy tzaddik was, and they did that. So that's also pretty crazy. This is the last. Okay, fine. After Rebbe Nachman's bris, when Rebbe Nachman was 8 days old, after his bris, his uncles, who were the brothers of Feiga, who are these brothers? Rav Baruch HaMezbush and the Baal Tegel Machane Ephraim. They came into Rebbe Nachman's mother, who was her sister, right? And she was very chashuv in their eyes. They also held that she was a Balas Ruach HaKodesh Mamish. And they blessed her that the baby, that she should grow him up to be, good, in Torah and Chuppah and Maisim Tovim, like regular bracha. And she turned to the brothers. She turned to Rabbi Baruch, and she asked him to also bless Rabbeinu that they should not argue on him, that nobody should be chaylik on him. And Rabbi Baruch, he says, Zeh avud, das is found. This is already lost. I think I saw in a different girsa that Rabbi Baruch said that that's impossible because it's already decreed from the 6 days of creation that we have to argue on Rebbe Nachman. All right, last one. Rabbi Lev Mishtrestenitz, who we just said before, who died on the boat, who was the son-in-law of Rabbi Yudel, or the father-in-law of Rabbi Yudel. I'm always confused myself. I think it's the father-in-law or the son-in-law. Okay, whatever it is. He was something to do with Rabbi Yudel. He came to Rabbeinu in a dream, and he asked him to be Makar of his sons. Rabbi Nachman Chernobyl, Lakach Imoi, Oilam Emes as a Karen Mischar Maisa Batoivim, Ulam as a Paris Hishir Khan Ba'oilam. He says when Rabbi Nachman of Chernobyl died, he took with him to the Oilam Emes, his Maisim Toivim that he did in this world, but the Paris, his children, I guess, he left in this world. Mishum Kach Yesh Levan of Gidula Vehem Rabbanim Gidoilim, right? Ulam Ani Lekachti Imi Loilam Abba Games a Paris. Mishum Kach Ein Lehem Levnai Shum Gedula Al Kain Avachshem Shetachor Boisam Al Lechem. So I also took the Paris. I'm not sure what he means by Paris, but so he's saying that his sons don't have any gedula. He took everything with him, so they don't have any schusim left, I guess. That's what it means. So he asked Rebbe Nachman to bring them close to him, and this is what happened, that Rebbe Nachman brought his sons close to him. Let's do one more, just for fun. The Baal Shem Tov one time turned to Rabbi Nachman Horodenker, and he said to him, who was one of his main students, who was also the grandfather of Rebbe Nachman, that the Baal Shem Tov said to Rabbi Nachman Horodenker that he wanted to be mishtadich with him, and Rabbi Nachman Horodenker did not want to be mishtadich with the Baal Shem Tov. As we know, Rabbi Nachman Horodenker married the Baal Shem Tov's daughter, I believe. Bahatima, yes, he did, right? Bahatima, the Rabbi Baal Shem Tov, Shezem Machmas Godel Yechusei Magas Ad David HaMelech. I think I mentioned this before, that Rabbi Nachman Horodenker said that he has yichus all the way to David HaMelech, and that's why he didn't want to be mishtadich with Baal Shem Tov. And Baal Shem Tov pulled out from his pocket Ksav Yichus, Ksav Yichus, a letter of Yichus, that shows that he also is all the way back, also to David HaMelech, and that's how we know that the Baal Shem Tov had yichus all the way to David HaMelech. It's pretty crazy, man. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry for the little mistakes here and there. A little tired today. But hopefully we'll see you guys on Thursday with some Sukkot Avodas and all the good things. And everyone should be blessed and feel happy and good.